Hi, I'm Macy.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between. Well, hey, bestie.
Hey, bestie.
Happy Podcast Tuesday.
Yes, same to you. I am excited to dive in today.
Me too. This week's episode is going to be such a fun one. We really have a remarkable guest, and the quote we chose, it is a leadership quote of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a departure from what our traditional quotes have been, but it is going to be a great conversation, and it really is a good quote. So before we dive into the quote, I'm going to introduce our guest. She is someone who I met briefly, and I was incredibly impressed by her and immediately knew that she had to be a guest. So
you called me immediately.
Yes, I did. So I am thrilled that she said yes. So welcome, Evelyn Romo.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me.
I'm
excited to be here. So thank you.
You're welcome. Evelyn, share with our listeners a little bit about you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and then we're going to kind of dive in.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Evelyn Romo, of course. I am a professional boxer, 3-0, and Yay. I actually am also on the radio. So I have that as well. I'm a journalist, producer, on-air talent. And
wow.
Yes. So that's what I do during the day. And then I punch people in the face later on.
A question, and you probably get a lot of your anxiety and your frustrations out. So maybe, Miss, we need to look at boxing. But a question I have, because I know like your fight name is Limitless. So what does that mean to you? And how did you come up with that? Like, why Limitless? What's the significance?
This is a good question. And I love when people ask me this because people would always ask me, what's your fight nickname and things like that. And I never knew. And I'm like, well, I just feel like I'm not going to force it. I want it to come naturally. And I always thought somebody else would give me my nickname. And granted, there have been people who gave me ideas. Killa was one. I've had other, examples that people would just throw out at me. But for me, Limitless was special because when I was younger, so I grew up with a single mom of 4 kids, and I kind of, just was kind of a troubled child. And a lot of times in the world, like I've always felt like I had to just do one thing and focus on one thing because I knew I always wanted better. For one, I always wanted better for the situation how I grew up, and like seeing my mom, how much she struggled. And I always thought I had to be doing one thing only and focus on that, which, it's a good thing to just focus on that one thing that you want to accomplish. But I did feel like I would limit myself in a lot of things. And boxing was like one of them because I started boxing when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I wanted to fight since I was 5 years old. And so, I was doing it as a hobby. I don't know what it was, why I loved it so much, but I just loved fighting. And so when I was training, I never really saw it as a career. I never saw oh, maybe I could do that. One, I didn't see that many women in it.
Right.
And two, it was just always this limit that I had in my head. I'm like, oh, no, you have to only do this. Like, you have to go to school to do this. And you just have to focus on that. As I grew older, I realized that I don't have to limit myself in anything because I'm very much a girly girl too. Even though right now I'm not like makeup and everything, but I can, be a girly girl. And people always tell me, I don't understand how she can just dress up and then go be in a gym and then be a completely different person. But that to me, it just kind of all went in hand, and why I chose Limitless, because I just felt like we shouldn't limit ourselves. And if we really want something, no matter what it is, even if it is a few things, like we should go after them and not put ourselves in a box, you know?
So good. Wait, I have a
good.
question. When Missy and I do training, sometimes like we do these fun activities, and one of the activities that we ask our participants to do is to come up with their walkout song. So what's your walkout song? I need to know what your walkout song
Walkout
is.
song, that's a good one. Oh my God, I love music so much that I honestly don't know if, like, there's one specific one that I would just choose. There's so many. I really do like, though, there's a song by this rapper Nipsey Hussle who passed away. It's called Dedication. I always like, that was like my first walkout song when I first competed in a big fight, and it I came when I started to compete again. I had just had a broken leg. I didn't think I was going to fight again. I had gone through other things in life, but that song just really touches me because it has a little quote in there that says, "Minor setback for a major comeback." That's my favorite. And that's what I always felt like, no matter what we go through, we can always come back for something greater, as long as we just don't give up and stay dedicated.
All right. So before we get too far, I want to go ahead, Miss, if it's okay with you, I want to share today's quote, and then we can talk about it. And this quote, believe it or not, was penned or said by Mike Tyson. Love him or not, he's the one that came up with that. So the quote is, everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Oh, it's so good. It's definitely different than the quotes we've shared up until now, but I do feel like it's one that anyone can relate to, and it can relate to leadership.
Right. I think so, because true leadership isn't about having a perfect plan. It's about how you adapt when the reality hits harder than maybe you expected.
Yes. Okay. So before we get into talking about the quote, Evelyn, I just have to ask you to give us a quick synopsis of how you got into fighting. And I'll tell you why. Because you said you've wanted to fight since you were 5 years old, and it is beyond my comprehension. Like, I've never been hit before,
Same.
right? Like, I've never been hit in the face. I mean, the most I've been hit was like a little kid I was babysitting or, raising my kids, and they kind of like smack you. But like, I can't imagine. So how did you get into it? Just quickly, and then we'll hop into the quote.
I trust me, I surprised myself, and the reason I found out I was like about 5 years old is because, so growing up, I'm from Mexico. So in Mexico, boxing is a really big sport for us culturally. And I just remember growing up with like my dad's side of the family, and we would get together and we would watch a lot of the big boxing fights. So there was one of my uncles, he used to fight, and he never really, pursued it as a career or anything, but he used to train, and he kind of knew the basics. He would shadow box sometimes. So like I always gravitated towards that uncle, and I would always bug him, "Can you teach me how to fight? Can you teach me how to fight?" And then like when I got older, I'm like, how old was I when I was telling you that? Because I do remember always asking him when we would get together to teach me how to fight, and that I wanted to fight. And he said that I was about 5 years old. And so I guess I would bug him enough that finally, when I was 12 years old, he's the one that started training me in his backyard. So I would go to his house, I would walk to his house, and then like he would just train me in his backyard. And then eventually he helped me get into like an actual boxing gym.
That's amazing.
It really is
so good.
I know, and I'm like, I don't know, I love it.
Well, you obviously did love it from a young age, and so now you're living it out. So if you think about this quote, and I'll say it again, right? Because I digressed a little. Everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the mouth. How do you think, besides literally your fighting career, like how do you think this has showed up in your life?
This quote, yeah. So I think thinking about it, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. Is that, oh, this is perfect. This is a perfect quote. I'm so glad you guys chose this quote. I think sometimes we have our life planned out, thinking that we're going to do certain things or accomplish certain things, which is good to have these goals. But sometimes it doesn't always plan out the way we plan it out to be. Like, for example, in my life, when I first finally competed, because I was just training, like I said, I always had that limit in my mind of like, oh, you really can't do this, whatever. I was finally able to test out my skills because I had coaches that eventually I found coaches that were like, oh, you should fight to see if you actually like it because you're actually really skillful. I was 18 years old when I first did my first fight. When I tell you I got in that ring and I completely fell in love with it. I was like, I don't care. This is what I'm gonna do with my life. Like I'm gonna
Wow.
be a fighter was at that moment. And then it was really hard for me to find boxing fights. So eventually I got into MMA.
Oh
So I
God,
want to say
that's
for
even
about a
more
year I was trying to
brutal.
find boxing fights. It was hard because one, there wasn't that many women, or if there
Right.
were, they would be too heavy or too light. Nobody in my weight class. And I would get frustrated, but I had a friend who got me into MMA. So long story short, I had this plan and I ended up breaking my leg. And I just think like I just kind of strayed away from my relationship with God. So this kind of gets a little spiritual, but I would just kind of glorify just boxing or fighting a little bit more. But I think that showed me that like, yes, you have a plan, but what happens when, something like an emergency happens, like just how God can give it to you, God could take it away from
That's
you.
right.
So it just showed me to just really appreciate everything in the moment more
Oh,
so
that's
than like just,
good.
thinking that we have forever. Or, like this is, something that I'll be doing all the time.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
all
we
we
know,
really have is now.
right. And we know that great leaders plan, but they excel when plans fall apart. And we also know that leadership is about emotional resilience under chaos. So when you get punched in life, again, not necessarily like physically, right? We're just talking about life in general. It is so chaotic, but what's your first initial reaction and how do you stay calm on the outside, even if like life is coming at you and things seem chaotic?
Yeah.
But then I also want to hear about how do you do that in the ring too? So in
Okay.
life and then in the ring.
So in life, I just try to well, now, especially now that we're humans. We sometimes we feel like life will come at you when you go about things the wrong way, which is another thing I would say, that everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. Sometimes you can't tell somebody how to react. But
Mm.
for me personally, when things are coming in my way and everything, I just kind of meditate a lot and I just reflect on my goals. I try to stick to my goals and not to my mood and how I'm feeling.
Ooh, that's
So
good. If you're
that
taking
helps me.
notes, write that down. Stick to the goal, not to the mood. I love that.
Yes.
I love
It
that.
helps me stay focused and on track because at the end of the day, I understand we're humans and we're going to go through multiple emotions. Things are going to happen. It's just take a step back and do your best to, go through whatever you're going through in the smartest way possible so
Yeah.
that you don't crash out.
So I have to ask though, Evelyn, have you ever had a moment like where you lost control emotionally? And if you did, what did you learn from it?
Hey, bestie. We just got some amazing feedback from a client we recently worked with. Their team's morale and engagement skyrocketed after our training.
I love hearing that. Companies are seeing higher retention, lower turnover, and even increased revenue and productivity because leaders are investing in their teams.
And communication and team efficiency are improving, which we know leads to better customer service and huge cost savings. If you want these results, check out our website, Mpactful Messages, to learn how we can help you.
And for more leadership tips and strategies, sign up for our newsletter, mmleadershipnews.com.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely been moments where I've let my emotions get the better of me. And honestly, I will say that just putting people, the right people in my life and praying for the right people in my life, like my coaches, my teammates, they've helped me a lot. I think, and I've told them this before, that they've really just giving me advice, and that means a lot to me because I'm a very, just how I grew up, I feel like I've always been a very reserved person. I don't really open up to people or things like that. So when I do get these emotional breakdowns with life and things, I just have the right people there to talk to me and make sure that I stay on the right track.
Love that. Okay, so besides meditation, we have a lot of leaders that are listening to this podcast, right? And their world gets chaotic. Do you have any habits or practices that help you stay centered during chaos besides that meditation?
Yeah, I think just routine. I love to have a routine, which a lot of people, I just think it's just sticking to a routine helps me stay disciplined and always, I always see improvements when I do that. So I would just say having a good, solid routine that can work for you and make you happy and still filling in things that you like, just for yourself, for your own goodness and happiness.
Yes.
That's
Systems
really
and
good.
processes, Macy. It's what we
Yes.
always say. Yeah, that
Yes, yes.
routine, doing things systematically. Good
Yeah.
advice.
So let me ask you this, Evelyn, because when I met you, you were actually speaking to the kids at the boxing program at Martin County Police Athletic League. That's how we met. And I could sense that your heart is to inspire young people, right? Like I could sense that that's what you were like on fire. This was coming from your heart. It was oozing out of you. So if you have a group of young people that are in front of you and you could only teach them one thing, right? We say you can tell them one thing, even if it relates to this quote, or if not, that's okay too. What's the one thing that you would want young people to know about life, especially though, when it doesn't go as planned?
That's good.
That is good. One thing is you can come back from anything except one thing, of course, and that's death. So no matter what happens, not giving up is gonna always take you where you want to go. So
Never give up.
Yeah,
never
and I would
giving up.
say
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I think that's great advice, but what's interesting is that goes for anyone, right? I
Yes.
think that
True,
there's
that's true.
older people, seasoned folks that are listening to this podcast, like anybody, don't give up. If you have goals, if you have dreams, if you have visions, because I love what you said earlier about that rap song
Yeah.
about the comeback.
Yes.
It's a setup for a comeback. That's all setups or setbacks are setups for
Yeah,
comebacks.
minor setbacks for major comebacks.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Love that.
And you know what? I think, unfortunately, to kind of piggyback on what you said, Macy, Evelyn was talking about kids. You mentioned adults. I mean, I think we have an epidemic of people who've given up on their dreams and goals, and they're just settling, right? Because they've been punched in the face, and the plans didn't go as they wanted them to, so they just gave up. So
And I
don't
think-
give up.
Yeah, go ahead, Evelyn. What were you going to say?
Especially, and you know what? I'm glad that you brought that up because it's so true. I think also, especially now with young kids. So I guess I really wanted to say this too for the young people, but for anybody, we have social media now that it's in our faces and it's inevitable. And a lot of times we find ourselves comparing our lives to others
right.
from what we see. And that's another thing I really want to advise, especially the youth, is to not compare because everybody's path is different and someone else's success story is going to be completely different from your own success story. And that, seeing somebody else at a certain age do better should never discourage you, or if anything, it should just motivate you to keep going.
Yeah.
So just don't compare your life with somebody else's, especially if you just see them online.
Yeah,
We
and
always
also-
say run your own race,
Yeah,
right?
and I
Like
would
just
say-
focus ahead.
Adults too, because you're
Yes.
comparing your story in your first chapter with someone's chapter 110,
Yeah.
right? Or whatever chapter they're in. And we're like, how come they are where they are?
Right.
Well, they're a lot ahead of you. They've done a lot more work than you've done. So that's so good. I know that we asked you specifically for youth, but I think for anyone who's listening,
Absolutely.
regardless of the age, those are really good things. And one other thing, Evelyn, that you said that I think really should go, we want to make note is that you talked about having the right people in your life.
Yes.
And I think that is so important. What you're listening to, who you're listening to, what you
Yes.
read,
So
what you
true.
watch, all of those things are going to make a huge impact on your life and your success or failure, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
No, 100%. Because even I've done like the work of just like, okay, I've had friends, but your acquaintances, whatever friends. And a lot of times, like, their goals were just so different from mine. Like,
Sure.
Some people just, their fun was going out, partying, this and that just to me doesn't align with my goals. And even though they could still be my friend from like a distance, but I have to align myself with the right people
That's
to where
right.
I'm headed and people that are truly going to be there for me and, be helpful when it comes to accomplishing my goals.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
So
good.
good.
Well, as we wrap up this episode, which may have been a little more unconventional that we've had up until now, it was equally as fabulous.
Yes.
And you've been such a great guest, and we so appreciate your determination and resilience and your discipline and focus on making a difference and being that positive influence. And we look forward to watching your career flourish. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about a takeaway for the week. Here we go. Listeners, if you only take one thing from this episode, let it be this. Real strength isn't shown when everything goes according to plan. Real strength shows up when everything falls apart and you find a way to keep going anyway.
Yeah, I mean, plans are important, but adaptability is everything. It's important to embrace the mindset that you can't obsess over perfect plans, right? You have
Yes.
to build yourself to be unbreakable, or I'll steal from Evelyn, to be limitless when life punches you in the face. So most people, I think success is getting a perfect plan together and then following it, when in reality, life, leadership, personal growth, it's all about recovery after the punch, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I
And
love that you said that. It's adaptability. And there's a saying that always is in my head too. Champions always adapt. So no matter what situation, you're going to adapt. And that's in life too and in the ring. Because listen, it's boxing and then the other person, they have two hands too and they come there to fight too.
That's right.
Anything can happen in boxing. So you got to be ready. You got to be able to adapt. Also, you never know, like there's so many different styles. So sometimes I'm in the ring. Okay, this person really likes to come forward, or this person really likes to stay on the outside and actually box. So how am I going to adapt?
Wow.
Adapt.
Well, you are a living example of adaptation. And I would say that you aren't winning because every fight is perfect, right? Evelyn's winning because when things get messy, you adapt and you keep going.
Yeah. And we know that our listeners are going to live this out too, because business owners are going to lose clients.
Yeah. Creatives have projects that flop.
Right. We know that athletes are going to lose games.
Yeah.
Parents are going to have hard days.
Yes. And students are going to fail some exams. And in every case, the real truth is that the punch is coming. How you respond decides whether you stay stuck or grow stronger.
So good. So we do have a challenge for our listeners this week and a special gift. We know that having a plan is so important. And it's just as important as being adaptable when a plan doesn't go well according to the plan.
Right. That's right. There's a saying that says, failing to plan is like planning to fail.
That's right. That could be a whole nother podcast, Macy.
It could be.
But so in the show notes, if you will go, we're going to put a link for you. You'll be able to grab our impactful method to planning. And using this document is really going to allow you to see clearly that having the plan in place is going to help you move forward. And it's going to help you advance over what obstacles might come your way. So when they do come, you'll be prepared by planning ahead.
Evelyn, we just want to thank you so much for joining. If our listeners want to stay connected to you, where and how can they do that? What are some social handles that they can follow?
Actually, all my social media accounts, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, they're all the same, and it's at the Evelyn Romo.
Okay. And we're going to
Oh.
put that in the show notes. So we'll make it really easy for them to follow you because you are one to watch, girl.
I know.
We're going to
Thank
keep
you.
our eye on you for sure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Before you go, Evelyn, as we wrap up, we ask this to all of our guests. What is your favorite leadership quote?
My favorite leadership quote is, if you can dream it, you can do it.
Oh, that's good.
That is a good one. Thank you so much. And listeners, do you have a favorite leadership quote? Let us know that too, and we may spotlight it on a future episode.
And we'll be back next week with another quote and more leadership insights. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to talk about it. Bye, Evelyn.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you so much.
Bye, bestie. Bye.
We want to thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Mpactful with an M _ messages on Instagram and Mpactful Messages on LinkedIn.